Well, just like all things in life, sometimes it's just time to move on to a new chapter. And had a lot of memories in this room. A lot of good things happened in this room. And, just some of the things that stick out. Wow. I mean, actually, it didn't even start in this room. It started in the attic of my house. And I think we did 9 interviews before we moved into this spot. And, just some of the highlights, man. I mean, we started this is really kind of an experiment, and I didn't think it had a chance in hell of working. We released the first one on Christmas of 2019, and it was just me and my wife, and that's it. And now we have an amazing team that's like a family to me, and an amazing audience that has turned into being like a family to me. And man, so many pivotal moments that we did in here, and lots of struggles, lots of fights. I remember when we had Dallas Alexander on, and the Cansoff, the Canadian government went after us and sent us a cease and desist for classified material, which I knew was bullshit because it was all about their COVID policies and how they're embarrassed that they fired one of the most legendary snipers who was on the snipers team that took the world record sniper kill shot at, I think it was 2.1 miles. It took 10 seconds for the bullet to travel there to kill that enemy combatant. And we went up and we fought against the Canadian government, and we won, and we re-released the episode, and the word got out. And Don Bradley, who was unjustly charged with, I can't remember if it was aggravated assault or whatever, he got shot in the head. And we did that interview because they got Don mixed up with another Don Bradley who had a long rap sheet. Don Bradley, my friend, is a retired Green Beret and contracted for CIA for probably close to 2 decades. And we brought that story to light because they were too embarrassed that they got the wrong guy. So they just kept pressing. And we got loud about that. And now Don is a free man, and he is going after that department. We hit number one on the Spotify charts in, I believe, 4 years, a little over 4 years. Brad Geary was, the Navy had pinned the death of a Buds candidate on him, reinvestigated that, who died of an enlarged heart, which was likely from performance-enhancing drugs, that the Navy reinvestigated it over and over and over again until the drugs were no longer in the report. And we brought that up, and a couple months later, the Navy sent Brad Geary, case dismissed, which is framed right over there. We brought to light the Taliban funding, $40 to $87 million a week. Hammered that for 2 years. But we finally got it pushed through the House. Now it's getting ready to go through the Senate. Braxton McCoy. In the big beautiful bill, there was a clause that was going to sell public land that I use, that you use, that ranchers use, that hunters use, that fishermen use, that anybody who wants to enjoy the outdoors use. They were trying to sell that out from under us. And we brought on Braxton, who is a rancher, to tell us what's going on. And we didn't even release the episode. We just released the preview. And that got pulled out of the bill that night. And if you don't believe me, read the Washington Post. We'll put the article up. sex trafficking. Talked about that a bunch when nobody else would talk about it. There's still people that won't talk about it. But just think of all the episodes we did on that. Ryan Montgomery, Tim Tebow, Victor Marks, Jared Hudson, who's now running for Senate. All those guys are combating that. And just think of all the kids, all that were saved, and all the parents who are now educated on how these predators go after our kids. And that education saved who knows how many lives. All the vulnerabilities that were shared in here with operators about suicide attempts and addiction and infidelity and overdoses and all that stuff, and how they've come out of it and build these amazing businesses and got right with their families. I mean, that just breeds goodness, which this country needs, especially our war fighters, and it shows them that there's a path out. And when I started this show, I never wanted it to be about me, ever. Nothing. I didn't want it. All I wanted to do was document modern history, how it happened, through my former colleagues who were there. Not some asshole who's a talking head on Fox News or CNN or NBC who never even stepped foot in the country. It didn't have the time to reach out to the fucking people who actually did it. So we documented it. And I got tired of the same fucking people getting all the recognition, getting their businesses blown up by mainstream media when nobody else would talk about the good things that these guys are doing with their businesses, with their nonprofits, even if it's just spreading a good message. And I wanted to do that. And I wanted to bring hope, like I was just talking about, of there's just so many, not just even veterans, there's so many people who are in a dark spot right now who are thinking about suicide, who are thinking about trying to find a way out of some type of an addiction or vice that's got their life in a dark spot. And through these interviews, we prove there are so many different avenues to get yourself out of that. Just watch the show, man. So many different avenues on how to get out of that, and the thousands and thousands, probably millions by now, of emails, letters, messages, DMs, comments of people that have dug themselves out of that downward spiral because of the vulnerability and the realness of this show. Exposing the corruption. Lots of that. Lots of that. While we didn't make a difference with everything, we did make a difference with some things. And that's all that matters, man. Just pump good in this world, and it will come back to you. It will come back. So now we're going to go through some of our highlights, some of my favorite moments that have happened right here in this room. Hope you enjoy it. We know that the U.S. is funding the Taliban with $40 million to $87 million a week.
According to Cigar, that for the past 3 years, $17 billion has been sent to the Taliban.
$17 billion we're sending our enemy, the Taliban, that we fought for over 20 years in Afghanistan. How enraging is that? We've been covering this on the show for about 2 years. It started off with a guy, Legend, an Afghan-American who worked with Army intelligence, came on here to reveal that. Then we talked to Sarah Adams, a staple at Shawn Ryan's show. She brought it up that said it's upwards of $87 million a week in cash that we're sending. Talked to Scott Mann. That led us into going to Ahmad Massoud, the leader of the Afghan NRF, the resistance against the Taliban. It's the first time we ever left the studio for an interview, went overseas, the entire team went. And you know what? We created a petition after that got over 400,000 signatures. Talked to Congressman Tim Burchett out of Knoxville, Tennessee, who after several attempts finally got this pushed through Congress. Now it's sitting at the floor of the Senate. Tim Sheehy is supposed to introduce this bill, I believe, in September. But, you know, as messed up as that is, and as enraging as that is, it just shows that if you stand up for what you believe in, at least every once in a while, you can actually make a difference. And we did that here, and you guys did that at home by signing that petition, retweeting this stuff, and getting loud. Let's do it again. Ryan, do you think you could demonstrate right here, right now, how fast these sexual predators will show up in a chat room?
Yeah.
Fire your computer up. Let's do it.
All right, I'm recording, so now I'm just going to say, hi, who wants to chat? And I named myself Ashley Female New Jersey, 13 Female New Jersey. Let's see how many private messages come in. 2 already. 3.
It's been like 10 seconds.
Yep. Hey, want to fool around? Hey, how old are you? Let me just copy that and send that to everybody because we got other messages coming in.
What chat room are you in?
Just a teen chat. Hey, you want to cuddle a bit? I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt right now that they didn't read the. Oh, he's 47.
47 years
okay
old
with
in a
my
teen
age?
chat room. You got him in what? 5 seconds? He's
Yeah.
already messaging in?
Oh yeah, there's a ton. I can't even keep up with them here because every time I click one, there's more on the list. He says he's okay. I said, "Are you okay with my age?" He says, "Yes, age 13, like my profile says." I got 2 more messages, so now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm 19. Let's ignore the 19-year-old, even though it's disgusting.
It hasn't even been 60 seconds yet.
Okay, there's another guy. Here's the other guy. This guy's 15. Ignore him. That is a real teenager in a teen chat. The 47-year-old says, he said age. I said 13 like my profile says. He said name. Ashley. And then another guy just messaged. How old are you? Okay, this person's a child too. So out of all of these, there's one guy here who is 47 years old, less than a minute, who wants to talk to a child in a teen chat. And I only said hi in the chat room, nothing else.
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit is right. That interview, man, Ryan's just, for starters, Ryan is just an impeccable person. He wants nothing other than to just help kids, and he's actually become one of my best friends. And we keep in touch fairly often still to this day, and I just love everything about that guy. And I brought him on because I saw a reel on Instagram. He was on a very small MMA podcast, and he was talking about a guy who was filming his daughter in a bathtub naked, saying, "Wait till you see what me and my friends do to her." And I remember seeing that, and I was wondering, why is nobody giving this guy any attention? Why is nobody covering this? Why doesn't anybody want to help kids not get sexually abused? And so I found Ryan on Instagram, reached out to him, said, "Hey, I saw that reel on Instagram. You're on some small MMA podcast. I would love to get you here to help get the word out on what's going on with our kids in this country." And that episode was just so revealing. As you just saw, I didn't believe it. I've heard a lot about sexual exploitation and pedophilia and all of that stuff, and I just never really believed how common it is. And so to prove to myself that it wasn't that common, because I did have that mindset where I was like, this can't be that common, I asked Ryan to open his laptop, get in any social media platform, any chat room. I didn't care what it was. I wanted to time it to see how long it would take. I figured it would at least take a couple of hours, if not all day. And I was willing to sit and wait it out. And you just saw the clip. In less than 60 seconds, there was a 47-year-old man wanting to fool around with a 13-year-old girl who just said hi in a chat room that's only teens. And is disgusting is all that is. That is my favorite episode because I think we hit a perfect storm. I think when we brought Ryan on there, who is a black hat hacker turned white hat hacker, hacks for good, goes after these people. I mean, we hit the perfect storm. We hit everybody who's into hacking. We scared the shit out of pedophiles because they know Ryan's coming after them. We hit the parents crowd who was probably like me and a little bit of disbelief of how common this stuff is. And it created this perfect storm, which wound up being the most explosive interview we've ever done. I think with all the clips and the reels and the episode and the audio, I think it's well over 100 million views. And I mean, we really, really put a dent, knocked the FBI back on their heels. So many things came together for that interview. And, and I think the best part is that Ryan got a lot of exposure from that interview, and he has amassed a tremendous amount of fame because of that interview, and he handles it so well. Nothing went to his head. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about exposure. He actually hates that, and all that guy wants to do is protect kids, and he is still like that to this day, several years later. And like I said, Ryan's become one of my closest friends, and our relationship just continues to develop. And I love that guy, man. I just wish him the best in life for what he's doing.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know what's in there.
So, we wanted to kind of pay tradition and turn the tables back over to you. You've been the one interviewing all this time. So, everyone starts off with a gift, as you know.
Jeez, dude.
What do you think's in there?
You want me to guess?
The team did an entire poll, and they pulled YouTube, right? Instagram and Patreon. And they found your number one fan of all time, and they were able to get him on the phone.
I stood up and threw on my laser, and there was a dude sprinting at me at full blast with a pistol in his hand and unloaded 6 shots at me.
No shit.
Yeah, so he unloaded, I unloaded on him, got off 3 rounds in a bolt lock. So dropped to my knees and we called exfil, ran around the back. Everybody got their guns up and running, and grenades started coming off the roof. So in rally, what had happened is...
So hold on. Did you eliminate the threat?
Yep.
He's dead.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't hit you?
He did.
He did hit you.
He hit me in the chest plate in one of the magazines.
Spent 14 years in combat. I've never ever seen somebody get a bolt lock at point blank distance like that, and I've never seen a malfunction at close distance like that. And to hear it from DJ, I mean, it's just that night. If you go back to that interview and just talk about that entire night, it's insane, just like the rest of DJ's career. And the operator interview of all operator interviews, man, DJ Shipley, it just touched so many people. I mean, he was so vulnerable in there. The combat was there. The vulnerability was there. He talked about suicide attempts. He talked about cheating on his wife. I mean, there was nothing off the table with DJ. And it brought a lot of hope to the special operations community by talking about his trajectory as a Navy SEAL through the SEAL teams into Team 6, his exit, his downward spiral with PTSD, with traumatic brain injury, with depression, with addiction, with infidelity. It was all on the table with DJ. And you got to respect a man that can be that vulnerable on camera. And I think I know it brought a lot of hope to a lot of veterans who are coming home from war by hearing his story. Because when you hear DJ's story, and a lot of the other guys that we've had on here, I mean, it shows that there's a way out of that. And that's originally why I started this whole damn thing, was to show that there is a way out. And life can be, you can find happiness, man. And I know a lot of guys come back from war and never do. But DJ and a lot of the other people that have been on this show is proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I'll tell you another thing about DJ, who's also become a really close friend of mine, and we talk fairly often as well, is DJ is the reason that I went and did psychedelics. And the conversation came up with Eddie Gallagher, then I interviewed Marcus Capone. I had thought about it, but I wasn't 100% sold on it. And then when I had DJ on, we had an offline conversation, and he just told me, you really need to try this. And so it was a couple months later that I reached out, went down. Most of you know the rest of the story. My whole life changed. My personal life, my business life, my family dynamic, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with the team. Everything changed. Quit drinking. It's been 3.5 years now since I've had a drop, and it was easy. And I have to credit DJ for sending me down that journey. And it's one I'll never forget.
And I put the gun down, and I stood up in a freaking rage. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I'm like, my God. And I start cursing him. I'm like, you say you're the savior and all this stuff. And I was mad, man. I was like, how could you let me? How could you let me do this? You're supposed to be healing me. And I blamed him, which was wrong. And I got out of my house and I went to the gym, my therapy. And that was the one time where it was about that time to clock out.
Eddie Penny, man. Me and Eddie met back when I was at SEAL Team 2, and we deployed to Afghanistan together and lost touch for a long time, probably damn close to 20 years. And then we reconnected. He came on the show, another just amazing human being. And, you know, right there he's talking about a suicide attempt that thank God he didn't pull through with it. But Eddie's story is, man, it got me thinking about God and Christ when there was a absence of that in my life for a long time. And, you know, I remember we made Eddie the Christmas episode a couple of years ago because his story's so special about how he came to faith. And so I thought it would be really good to release him on Christmas because of that. And we did. And I'll bet it was a year at least that every single person that sat in this chair across from me, one way or another, brought up God or Christ or their faith. It was like something magical happened there, where every single person brought that up after him for at least a year. And that sent me down a rabbit hole, just like the Shipley stuff with the psychedelics. And it got me interested, and I started studying it, and I started looking for answers in the Bible and start talking to spiritual leaders, and which led me to finding my own faith. And when I did find that in Sedona, if you guys haven't heard that episode, you should probably listen to it if you have time. But Eddie was one of my first calls after that experience in Sedona where I came to my faith. And I still talk to Eddie to this day about that. And I send other guests who come on here, and sometimes I'm able to plant a seed that gets them curious. And then when they get curious and they call and they're interested in Christ or God or faith, I send them to Eddie, because Eddie's way more in tune with this than I am. And but Eddie is just really special person. And it was just so overpowering. And the next thing that happened is I had this intuition. There were no visualizations. It was all intuition. I had this intuition that Gabe was like right there. And I started crying, and I just started saying Gabe's name, and I was like, Gabe. I was like, Gabe. And I just started like crawling towards the something, but there was nothing there. It was just a presence that I felt with my own intuition, or like an energy that was like literally like just steps away from me. I crawled towards it, and I just knew that like he was there, and everything was fine, and I was happy for him that he was in this space, and then I started, and then that presence kind of faded away, and I started looking around again, and I could once again I just, my breath turned into everything. Just, it's all one thing. We are all one thing. And I remember digging my hands into the like blades of grass, and I saw this bug like moving around. And you know, normally I would have like smashed that bug and killed it. And I was like, how can anybody like kill anything? Like what is all of this is perfect. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. And let's cut it. I don't want to do that one.
You want to take a break?
The Shroud of Turin is a very fascinating topic.
I've been
new
looking- you've been
research
looking at-
into
Yes, John Campbell, Dr.
Yeah,
John Campbell.
There's some really powerful new analysis of the shroud that indicates it may very well be the burial cloth of Jesus. In fact, many years ago, they did a study of it, and they took a piece of it and they did radiocarbon dating, and they said, oh, it dates back to the Middle Ages, so it's a forgery. Well, they had taken by mistake, threads that were part of a patch that was added in the Middle Ages.
Because it was burned. If you look at it, you can see the burn marks. It was in a fire in Turin in the 1500s.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
And what happened is it got burned. Well, nuns took it and sewed patches of cloth on to piece it back together.
So they accidentally dated that. But when they date it, there is, and I'm not an expert on it, but Dr. Jeremiah Johnston and several others are writing books and doing lectures on it now. There's a lot of new stuff coming out on the Shroud that really does suggest. By the way, one of the most powerful moments I've ever had was there was a guy, and I met him. I used to do a TV show, and I had him as a guest. He was the official photographer of the Shroud of Turin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a Jewish guy, Barry Schwartz, I think his name. And he made several life-size, actual-size copies of the photo of the Shroud. And I met a guy who has one. He has a traveling exhibit that he has. It was out east. And so he said, "Do you want to see it?" And I said, "Yes." I'm telling you, when you come face to face with this image and you contemplate the possibility that is an image of my Jesus, it's pretty overwhelming. It is pretty overwhelming.
John Burke and Lee Stroble, man, two amazing people. And this specific episode we released on Easter, and it was supposed to be all about Christ and proving his existence and learning about him. And we did just that. And, but going back a little bit, I remember we brought John Burke on first. I've talked a lot about my journey to faith here and just the podcast in general. I use it to fill my own curiosity and do my own research from, face to face with people who know. And I remember John's book came across my desk, and it was about he had done research of, I think, 1,500 people that had had near-death experiences from all over the world, all different religions. And he went and interviewed all these people and found the commonalities of what they experienced in those near-death experiences. And overwhelmingly, there was a commonality, and that commonality was Jesus. And so I met John, and that helped strengthen my faith. And John's friends with Lee, and I saw Lee's movie, The Case for Christ, and that really touched me. And I've been trying to get a hold of Lee Stroble for years, at least a year before I finally got him in here. And I think we released that episode on Christmas as well. And then I thought, because those guys have, they've just taught me so much and strengthened my faith so much that, and not just mine, but millions of people. We got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of emails and comments, and now I have more Bibles than a Christian bookstore, because the audience was so happy that that I'd come to faith, and I have every single one of them. And I remember thinking, man, it would be really powerful right now if we got John Burke and Lee Stroble in here together, who are old friends, who have done documentaries together and done research together and collaborated together. And it wound up being another really explosive, powerful interview. And I think it brought a lot of people to faith. I don't think it did. I know it did, because the letters, the emails, the comments, the Bibles, the everything that people were sending, they still send them. And thank you for that, by the way. But amazing human beings, and I know you'll see them again on the show. You have also stated in previous interviews that American soldiers' body parts began showing up at the base gate in trash bags. Let's start with the trash bags.
What hurts me the most about the trash bags probably happened a couple years ago. Talking to one of the spouses whose body parts were in that trash bag. And she can't use trash bags. She just can't use trash bags anymore to think of that. I don't know what the delivery was for. I don't know if it was to give them back, and that's just the only way to do it after they hacked them apart and drug them to the street, but I mean, that's sad when that's how you identify people, is in body parts in trash bags delivered to your front gate.
Man, I think a lot about when I asked that question in that interview, which was several years ago. And, you know, for those of you that don't know, we're talking to Tom Sadderly, who was one of the Delta guys on the ground when Black Hawk Down in Somalia all happened. And when I asked him that question, I did not realize that those were his guys, his direct teammates that were hacked into pieces and put in those trash bags, and I immediately regretted asking that question. You can roll it.
From what I think they knew would be hell unleashing that we wanted to. Yeah, or taunting. You know, I don't know what their purpose was, but it certainly angered everyone.
Who were these guys?
I think the body parts were from probably part Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart and maybe one of the crew chiefs.
That goes to show you what the enemy's capable of, doesn't it? And, Tom's just a great guy, man. He's been through so much. So many pinnacle operations of serving the U.S. at the highest level you can possibly serve at. Everything from Black Hawk Down to capturing Saddam. Tom was a part of all of that. So many different wars. Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia. He was all over the world. And Tom has become another really good friend of mine who runs the All Secure Foundation. And, you know, one thing I'll say about Tom is there's a lot of nonprofits out there, and they start good, and then they get greedy, and then it gets bad. And the motive changes from helping people. It becomes all about money. And Tom and his wife Jen run the All Secure Foundation, and they do not budge, man. Their number one goal is to help prior service people who are getting out, who've been through traumatic events, and they just want to see people succeed. And he is stuck with that. He's handed the organization off to people that he thought could run it better and takes it back because they don't. And Tom and Jen are on a mission, and they've helped so many people, including myself. And they're just great people. Like I said, it's been one hell of a ride, man. And just want to thank you, the audience, our Patreon community, anybody who's ever been a part of this. Watched it, listened to it, anything at all. If you gave this show a second of your day, thank you. Thank you for being here. Maybe I'll see you again sometime.